Monday, 7th of November 2022. In this evening's show, we are catching up on back-to-back 1-0 defeats away at West Brom last Tuesday and at Bloomfield Road on Saturday, just gone. It's Luton. We'll also be looking ahead to Middlesbrough at home tomorrow evening and how our injured and illness-ravaged squad will cope. I'm Josh Bill on the Seaside's podcast match reaction show. Blackpool 0, Luton Town 1, and other stuff. Good evening, everybody. Nick, cracking start.
Well, I was just thinking you got the intro right, and then
Good every evening. Good every evening, Nick. How are we doing?
I'm not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening to everyone on the stream. Welcome to the live show. Hopefully, we'll get a few more people on tonight. I know not many people come on after we've had a defeat, media blackouts and all, but it's good to see Matt back after your sojourn, to use a word, optimism. I always picture your holidays as something like off with Nail and I.
That's not too far from the truth.
I've gone on holiday by mistake.
Well,
my point is, it's good to have you back, Mitch.
Thank you. Every good evening to you too, John.
What windswept place did you go to this time?
Exactly,
Well, actually, this was quite civilised. We went to Troutbeck, so that's not that. People actually do go on holiday there. So yeah, this was all right.
Did it have luxuries like central heating?
There was soap, John. Soap.
I was in the lakes as well.
You're always in the lakes, to be fair.
Nick the Lake Smith.
Where were you, Nick?
Cartmel.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, very nice.
He's always, every time I see you, you're posting, Nick's checked into, and it's another boozer in the lakes every time you do it. Single-handedly keeping the Lakeland economy thriving, is Nick.
The local brewing economy.
Yes.
Right. Anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome to the pod here on a Monday evening. Bit of news before we get the ball rolling this evening. It's been 5 years since the judgment against the Oystons. How time flies. I still remember that day when it came in. My F5 key worn down to the keyboard, all the print gone off it, sitting in that back room waiting for that news. And it's incredible, Tim, that it's 5 years since that day.
Yeah, I have quite vivid memories myself. We'd gone down to London and stayed there. Ray was on the chat here. He has ex-services, so we can stay in this hotel. Have you stayed at John the Victory? Don't know whether you have you? No. And he's just around the corner from Hyde Park. So went for I don't think I do it anymore. I went for a jog around Hyde Park in the morning. And they're getting a bit old for all that now. But
did you scare all the swans on St James's Park?
Yeah, and then there's people swimming. It's like November. It's pretty mental. And then me and Jez went had a civilized walk around, and because I was up dead early, as I always am on these things, because my mind's sort of ticking over. And then we all this is a proper Tim trip. We all went to the British Museum because the hearing wasn't until the afternoon. So the hearing was 2:00. So we said, "Oh, what should we do?" And I said, "Oh, let's go and have an hour in the British Museum." So they had this rather bizarre sight of about 30 Blackpool fans, and that's where we all met up and had a bit of a wander around. And then we went to the pub because obviously you had a bit of the morning. You can't just go to the pub you could, I suppose, at 10:00 in the morning. It wasn't what it was about.
You could if you're Nick the Lake Smith.
Yeah. So. And it was an absolutely gorgeous, even though it was absolutely gorgeous day. It was, I don't want to take it warm, but it was fantastic. So, the only thing I knew before we went in was that it'd been fed. I can't remember, it's been fed back to Sharpie or something now because everybody was tight-lipped because it's all whilst the parties know the decision, the judgment's embargoed. So, which basically means that you can't share it with anybody. It's contempt of court to do it. So. all I'd heard on the grapevine was that Les Golding had said Tim's going to like a certain part of it, which obviously when we get it is the illegitimately stripping the club of its assets, which is basically what I got done for.
What a delicious irony!
It was that was the delicious ironies of delicious ironies, isn't it? So. It was a fantastic. I think at one point, although I think somebody ruined it by somebody else coming in, we had 53 Blackpool fans in the gallery, which was rather poignant. And it was.
Is that right? Is that by chance or by design?
Just by chance. There was 53 of them. Then I think somebody else turned up at the end, just to change it slightly. But the interesting bit is all the parties have already. Obviously, you've seen what a novel the judgement is. It runs to 100. I should know because we did all hold up every single page outside the stadium. Was it about 161 pages or something? The year on from it, because it had slightly been sorted, we all held up one page outside the ground. But they don't. Obviously, everybody knew it, so they start talking about the decision, and we still didn't know what was going on. And then this, the sort of moment when the 31.16 million gets mentioned for the first time, and everybody just looks up and goes, "What?" And that's when we start to realise how the magnitude of the award that had been made, which was off the Richter scale, because even the Clifford Chance put forward 3 arguments in when they summed up, and none of them involved Valeri getting 31 million plus. I think the top one was about 26 or 27, but basically. Without going on too long, the Marcus Smith gave him the 26 million they'd already had plus his money back that he'd invested. So it was a great day and a great trip back to Blackpool. It really was. It was a party train.
It's almost like an away day at Wembley and winning the playoff final. I would have imagined.
It was comparable to that. It was like literally. Even now, it's probably it's going to be one of the most memorable days of my life. It wasn't the end, but it was the beginning of the end. But it wasn't finished because this hadn't been for such a stubborn old goat. He could have probably paid Valeria off, and because he ended up paying him anyway, and that's with a distressed sale of half his assets. So. He had the money to pay him, just wouldn't. I don't remember, but obviously there's all these talk and risks of him borrowing the money, and they were real. And if he'd done it, then we would have been properly goosed. He'd still be there. So, but yeah, to be honest, I didn't realise. I didn't remember till about 3:00 yesterday afternoon that it was the 5th anniversary, and then I tweeted around a bit, and I know Norman Smalniak, who was obviously the Valeri's eyes and ears in the Premier League. He's put it on Facebook, and Casper's has liked it and everything. So they're all this. It was a big time for them as well, and a memorable time for them.
I wonder what Valeri's up to these days, eh?
It was said on my Facebook chat. Actually, I wish he should have put some money back in the club, but because there's 2 people had money out, and the club's been left with nothing. But Valeri didn't take the money off Blackpool; he took it off the Oystons. I think there's a very clear distinction. And secondly, I can't speak for Simon, but I don't think Simon wanted Valeri's investment anyway. So, because obviously Valeri had his issues as a result of the Oystons and all this stuff in Kyrgyzstan that we all heard about at the time. So he was banned from being a director, and there was the allegations of money laundering floating around. So to be fair to Simon, he's probably doesn't want to get involved in that, really, does he? I wouldn't have thought.
No. So there was a BST meeting at the Armfield. Sorry to bring you in again, Tim, because none of us were there. So what?
Yeah, too early for you, was it, John?
You what?
Too early for you. Oh, you've got your kids' football.
I was just busy overseeing the destruction of another team in the under-10s Blackpool and Found League. Oh, Kelly's here, actually. Even Kelly, one of my players. I've had to tell him off tonight at training as well.
Kelly's one of your players. She's a bit old, isn't she, for under-10s football?
Her son is.
I know.
Oh, it was a joke, was it, Tim?
It was a weak
Okay.
attempt.
So, yeah, I couldn't make it. I know the other 2 didn't. So, very, very briefly, what happened there? I know the 2 local Tory MPs were there, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. Just talk about fan-led review, really. So they just gave a little bit of an update. And whatever your politics are, they do both seem to be engaged with trying to get this fan-led review through. So it's you've got to accept that at least in that respect, that we are aligned in relation to what we want and what the government's prepared to do. Because most certainly, when Truss came in, it was like it was going to get carboshed, but it seems to be back on the agenda now. And to be fair, both of them are banging the drum for it, and they're not just saying it; they are actually doing it.
What were Mansford and Garrity's view on the fan?
The big thing, of course, for any owner who isn't in receipt of parachute payments is that part of the fan-led review would see a levelling up of the TV money and how that's distributed amongst those in the Championship and below. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, I think, really, as an owner of a smaller Championship club, to be in favour of legislation that will, amongst other things, force this through, because the government has been sort of bending over backwards to the Premier League and the EFL, saying try and reach an agreement, and there's some suggestion they might be close, but who knows? If they reach an agreement, then the government won't legislate, but if they don't, then they will, and that's the long and the short of it.
Anything else of note came out of it?
The biggest thing really, and I think this is something that hopefully will interest a few people on here, is that, I mean, BST's reserves have been depleted somewhat, so they're starting like an equivalent of a gold bond in, I think it's going to start in December.
Kudo gave me something in the pub in the Bloomfield Club.
And there's QR codes. If you go in the Armfield, everything's QR codes, so you can go to the website. I should know the website. I think the website is 1953.live, and you can. It's like the old gold bond. It's like £5 or £10, or if you want to do more, you can, per month. So it's like £1 a week for a line, and there's
that's cheap.
40% in cash prizes, but there's also some memorabilia being given away as well. So, but the idea is it's going to give BST the funds to keep on doing the stuff they're trying to do with the kids, with the match sponsorship, hopefully to get sponsor a few players, and basically the money's got all gone. The idea is the money goes back in the football club. So, obviously during the boycott years, there was plenty of money coming in through Oyston out shirt, scarves and things of that nature. And that has all been ploughed back. But obviously they're reaching the point now where they need to, memberships aren't enough really for them to do what they want to do. So hopefully people are going to engage in this. And you'll see it's on AVFTT. Anybody who's a BST member, and I'm sure you three all are, and haven't let your memberships lapse, that you should have an email about it. But if not, anybody can drop me a line and I'll put you in touch with them, or I'll send a link to the website, and let's all try and put a little bit of money back, because most certainly there was a great little story about lad from Wigan and the family were one part of the family were trying to make him an Evertonian, and his granddad was trying to make him a Blackpool fan, and he'd been to a couple of games, wasn't really engaged. He's only 6, and he was one of the first ones to get the mascot package that BST support and sponsor, and apparently he's now like Blackpool through and through. Can't wait to go. He's up at 7 a.m, got his kit on already, ready to go. And his granddad's captured him as a Blackpool fan, much to the disgust of the Evertonians in the family. So, but that's what it's all about. It's about trying to get some of the young kids engaged, and because once you've got them, you generally got them, and that's what the shirt deal was about last year. They reckon year 2 is the optimum time to capture fans. So it's probably the same with Eddie, wasn't it? When you start, probably when he was about 7, that's when he really starts getting into it. And that's when we need them to be going to watch us and not watching Premier League or whatever else it might be.
Or Everton.
Or Everton when they're in the Championship next year. So without, obviously there's links knocking around for people who want to go and follow the whole thing. But at the end of the day, the main thing is, from BST's perspective, it's this lottery. It wasn't the only thing we spoke about, but and the fan-led review seems to be going forward. And the club, Ben and Brett were both engaging, honest, They spoke about 2 Premier League players. I don't know who they were, but who we tried to sign, ex-Premier League players, who wouldn't sign, and they've got no contracts with anybody. But they wouldn't, for the money Blackpool were prepared to offer them, which was decent for us. They basically won't get out of bed, and they're saying that's a problem. Some of these players are on such ridiculous amounts of money that they just don't need. They don't need to play, and some of them can't be basically asked.
Did anyone ask him about Colby Bishop?
Didn't get mentioned that, to be honest, but
I wish someone would have.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating that when you see him knocking goals in, and we don't sign him because he's supposedly injury prone, and then we sign every single injury prone.
It doesn't normally stop us, does it?
No, we did. I always wonder whether somebody asking about Pavida as well, because he was apparently sent training with the kids, wasn't he, on Saturday, from what I heard? So
threw his toys out of his pram at West Brom, which nicely segues on to a game we didn't cover last week. We'll very, very briefly touch on it on here. West Brom 1, Blackpool 0. Tim and I both went on a high after Coventry away. I got motivated to go to it.
We were cheerleading for everybody else to go as well.
We were trying to get everyone to go, rallying the troops. But Nick, to quote that Italian commander on LOLO, what a mistake and a maker going there. It was an absolute bag of shite. I don't know if you saw any of the replay.
Yeah, I did. Yes, in the highlights, and I think the problem was they put such a shift in at Coventry, didn't they? I don't think we made any subs in that game, so they've all played 90+ minutes. In an ideal world, knowing that you've then got Luton on Saturday, you probably rest.
You rotate.
3 or 4.
You rotate,
yeah.
don't you?
Yeah, you'd probably get, if Beasley was fit, you'd rest Big Gaz probably for 70 minutes. You'd maybe give, if Gabriel was playing, you'd perhaps rest Connolly. You could bring Bridcut in, you could bring Fiorini in, Keshi, whoever, and then say to those 3 or 4 or 5 who you rest, right, you're back in for Luton when you're well rested. We can't do that. The only change was because of Charlie being ill. And obviously we really miss him because he knits everything together. So you've got a few running on empty and carrying knocks. So it's probably not a massive surprise that we saw the performance that we did. It's maybe a game too far.
I stupidly thought we'd get a result there. So on the patron chat, I was there. Go fill your boots, lads. 4.5-1. I'm putting 15 quid on this. Don't listen to me ever for tips, people.
There was a dangerous level of general optimism about the West Brom game. I felt that was just making me worried beforehand, because everywhere on Twitter, people, we'll beat these. The shit at the bottom of the league. Come on, we're going up. Playoffs at least. Appleton's the new Holloway.
How things have changed, eh?
I think
Tim, go on.
Go on. I was going to say it was one of those scenarios, wasn't it, where if he makes the changes and we lost, then everybody would say, "What you're doing, changing a winning team?" Because we've just got come on back-to-back wins for the first time this season, and you're playing bottom of the league, and we should have got the points on the table. But then, so I think to a certain degree, it's the benefit of hindsight that is make a load of changes, because I don't think people were calling for those changes. I think most people wanted us to stick with the same winning team. And of course, you've got a break coming up in about 2 weeks' time. So he's probably thinking, if I can get some points at West Brom, Luton's going to be tough anyway. Get points at West Brom, try and get points against Middlesbrough, points against Wigan. These are the teams in or around us. And obviously, it backfired spectacularly. I don't think we had a shot on target.
I think the thing is, Tim, he does not trust the squad, the strength in depth, the players in the opposition.
I was thinking before, you'd maybe rest. If you want to rest Husband, but he probably doesn't trust Thompson. Thornley,
Garbett could have come in as well, couldn't he?
Yeah, Thornley. He's had cramp. He had a bit of an issue with his calf, but he just carries on, doesn't he? And again, if you had a decent replacement centre half, you might make that change there. But there's that factor as well, that he probably doesn't trust one or two to come in, and you've got the illness and injuries.
I think also the players we've got playing at the moment is a real sort of spine of like the warrior types. You know, Kenny's never out. Gaz, I mean, to be fair, Gaz, for a player that people say is injury prone, is actually, you know, he'll play through anything. Jerry's never out. Thornley's never out. I mean, you know, he is now because he's been hit on the head with the cannonball. But these are all, a lot of the squad now are the players that when you say, you know, are you all right? You all right for Tuesday? They're going to say, yeah. You know, these are the players that aren't the ones that are going to say, we've got a bit of, it's a bit tight, my hamstring's a bit tight, or my knee's a bit dicky. And it's kind of like, I think he's very much a kind of footballer's manager, if that makes sense. I think he's the kind of manager who will go with what the players say and will, you know, if they want to play, if they've played well and they want to keep the shirt, he'll keep the shirt, as opposed to whereas, you know, Critchley, you felt like had some kind of Gantt chart on his wall saying, you know, well, you're not playing this week because you've played 3 games. And I think sometimes that used to piss some of the players off because they get dropped regardless of performance.
Yeah. The highlight for me, Tim, was the nicely laminated away concourse. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. I put it on Twitter. It was weird.
I didn't pick up on that, to be honest.
It's weirdly spongy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like a front room from the 80s.
Literally like you're in someone's front room. Yeah.
I went out the back at half time, so I got caught on camera, didn't I, with having a guzzle of a drink. It wasn't the most flattering of photographs.
No, the drinks weren't great either. It was £9 for a can of Worthingtons or a plastic bottle of Foster's. There was your only 2 options.
Yeah. And we'd had because we had the afternoon off, so we'd gone down to Penkridge beforehand and had a nice couple of pints and a curry. And I said it was all pear-shaped from there because then we put the postcode in to go to the cricket club, which we'd been told is not a bad place to park, and it took us to the DHL distribution centre for West Bromwich, which was nice, but not.
Do you watch the Fast Show, Tim?
Yeah, but not so nice when you're already running late for the game. So we had to leg it. Just about got there for 8 o'clock, and then wish we hadn't bothered. And then we had what a nightmare it is to get away from that ground as well.
Oh God! And that's the last thing you want at a dark, wet, miserable, black. It was again this black country thing comes up. It's so black and dark around there.
Yeah, I think it was after 10:30 before we got out of West Bromwich.
Yeah, I was back.
And then you got 2 hours to get home. So anyway,
Christine's just put the BST sweepstake URL up. It's 1953.live. That's
cool. And I think we should all try and get behind this because it's all going back in.
Yeah.
And you know, even if it's just a fight, you know, £1 a week, it's a bargain. And you might win. There's a signed Gaz frame picture for grabs.
That's my month's wages going in. It's Christmas cancelled.
Yeah, you had me at Gaz. Anyway, so luckily we had Luton at home to show some bounce back ability. Oh, God. Luton at home. This was the team. Maxwell, Connolly, Ekpiteta, Thornley, Husband, Patino, Dougal, Ward, Hamilton, Medine, and Yates. So for this segment of the show, we're going to go back to the Seaside 7 way of analysing matches because I thought it was pretty boring. I was just talking through the game. So the first talking point of this game is that I've put Grant, Ward, Mitch, starting 11, pretty much the same, but the return of Grant Ward. Who saw that coming?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's been hovering around the periphery, hasn't he? I mean, on a personal level, I was delighted for Grant Ward because I really like him as a player. But it's a bit surreal to see somebody who had publicly stated that we literally, you know, the manager literally said, I do not want him. And then, yeah, here he is there in the starting lineup. So, and I also felt a bit sorry for him because he's not really been eased back in, has he? I mean, this is a player who I think it was 17 months since his last game of first team football, and he hasn't had a sub appearance. He hasn't had a League Cup game to ease himself back in. He's just chucked straight into the heart of the midfield for a league game, and yeah, I mean, I was really hoping that he'd score a screamer or something, because I thought that'd been wonderful for him. But it shows how thinly we're spread. And I think it also shows that Callum Wright isn't really flavour of the month if Grant Ward's getting in ahead of him, because I don't think Wright had been ill or anything, had he?
No, he hasn't, and I kind of agree with it. I've not seen much of Callum.
Well, he got hooked at half time, didn't he, on Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever we played. Yeah. And he was pretty bad in that first half at West Brom, I have to say. And I like him as a player. I was been quite excited with his early performances, but maybe he was ill and didn't know it, And
Recall Dale says, "Never mind the bollocks, it's the seaside." I thought with Soldo in Dale, is he just on loan then?
Yeah, no, he's just on loan. And interestingly, we didn't allow him permission to play in the FA Cup for Pompey at the weekend.
Yeah, we didn't give Doug Tarm or him, but we did give Casey permission.
Virtue's out on loan as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's at Lincoln.
Get them all back. We should recall them, given the.
Yeah, but that'll be good. Are they really good enough? I mean,
you generally can't recall a loan to a league club till January. They normally go in.
Okay. Yeah, so Grant Ward coming in was an odd one. The next talking point I've put on my notes is tepid first half, and Nick on the extended highlights, which I watched today, they had one incident in the entire half in the extended highlights, which was a cushioned header from their attacker into the arms of Chris Maxwell. It was diabolical.
Yeah, there isn't a lot to talk about from a highlights point of view, is there? It was, they were, as we knew, they would be very physical. It just felt like, I don't know whether it was a bit of a hangover from West Brom, but we just didn't seem to be able to get going.
Was anyone surprised that we were playing in that kind of languid style, given the exertions over the last month?
No, that's it. If you look at, we're down to the bare bones, aren't we? There's a few playing with knocks. There's a few running on empty. So it's not a massive surprise that we didn't have that kind of, particularly as we have done in the first 15 minutes in a lot of games, that, bright start and good energy. Not a massive surprise, really.
Well, you've got one guy who we just spoke about hasn't played any football, and then you've got Patino, who's basically come off his sickbed, and clearly he's come off his sickbed too early. So I think he wanted to. What I heard, because all his family from Luton, aren't they? I think he had a big contingent up, so I think he was very keen to play, but obviously not up to it.
We had a little spell where we got going for about 5 minutes, and then their left back, that sort of farce where the left back kept going down injured and then getting back up and then going down injured again, then getting back up, and that seemed to we just got a little bit of rhythm, and then that sort of took 5 minutes out of the game while he faffed about whether we were bringing him on or not, and the ref kept stopping it because he kept going down, and after that we just couldn't get going again. And I, to be honest, I thought at first it was cynical. I thought they were doing it on purpose to break our rhythm, but then he was actually injured. And did you see Nathan Jones when he went down in obvious pain? He sort of yelped, fell over, and started to drag himself off the pitch. And Jones was going, "Get back on, get back on!" Because he didn't.
He's going to Southampton, isn't he?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Apparently, they really want him, don't they? So
I heard someone saying Neil Critchley to Luton. Get a tenner on it.
Interesting.
Tim, third talking point of the Seaside 7 is I've titled this Melee Number 1.
Yes, I think it's
right in front of you.
It was absolutely incredible. I think it actually ended up on some these football social media sites, didn't it? As like, watch this, you can't believe they don't score. So
it's a bit like the Man City melee for those of a certain vintage.
Yeah. I thought of exactly the same thing in front of the cop. Yeah. where
Was
they're
it not?
just
Was it
hacking
not
at
Tottenham? That was
No,
a City
it's
one.
not
Wasn't it? It was
the
a City
ultimate
one.
limbs.
right at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Lake, I think.
Yeah, I think it starts with CJ putting a half decent ball in, doesn't it? That to be honest,
It was one of his famed cutbacks. He's good at those cutbacks, is he?
Yeah, and it killed it in, and it was okay. And I can't remember now what Jerry did, whether he headed the first one, but I remember Jerry having about 3 goes at it, and then
Ward, then Keshi.
Then he gets cut back, and then it's like bang, 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 and it was incredible. I mean, the header towards the end, which got ended being cleared off the line, was probably the clearest cut of the lot. But there must have been literally, I've not counted. Is there 6 or 7 shots in the move? I think, isn't there? And they're all, to be fair, they're all defended, all saved really well from their perspective. You start to realise it's not your day, don't you? When that happens, because probably 95 times out of 100, one of those shots ends up in the back of the net.
I think you're definitely thinking it's not your day when there's not one melee, there's 2 melees that are like that. We'll come to that in a bit. Matt, we'll just wake you up. You're looking very bored and tired there, so I'll come to you.
Tired, not bored, John. How could I be in such company?
Maybe you need a ball in the face like Jordan Thornley got to wake you up a bit.
Well, it was the second one he got as well, because at first half there was one where he headed one away that was absolutely leathered as well. So it was the second one he got, and that was right in front of me, and it was just he absolutely cannoned it, and sort of Thornley went up, and I think it kind of caught him on the side of the head rather than sort of heading with between the eyes, so to speak, where you want to head it. And he was
punch drunk, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he was. I mean, because that was right in front of me. He was really groggy. He was sort of sat down. He was trying to get himself up, and he looked a bit woozy. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it never rains but it pours, does it? Because I mean, Judd's just been tremendous, and off goes. I mean, you don't see that very often, do you? A player concussed by the ball, but because it's us, then we do see it.
I'd have ducked if I'd been playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's as Pete says, it's a bit unusual. If you have a bit of concussion, you're normally all right after a couple of days, aren't you? But the way
it's protocol now, isn't it? You have to.
Yeah.
You
10
can't
days,
play
I think. Is it 10 days or something?
Yeah, so he automatically misses the next 2 games. So even if he's all right, he can't play.
Because there isn't, now with the protocol, there isn't a bit of concussion. There's just concussion, and that's it. The end, and it's 10 days.
Yeah. I've actually done this on my FA Level 1 course. Yeah, it can be a funny thing, concussion. You can feel and look fine, but it can be serious consequence. So I hope you get well soon, Jordan, anyway. Going to be sorely missed, isn't he? The last player that we want out now is him, and it's him. But, it was a big kick in the bollocks to see Jordan Thornley coming off Mitch, and a second kick in the bollocks came from the resulting corner from the move. We've conceded. In my notes, I've put Maxwell potentially at fault for not commanding the area again, and I thought that was a bit of a pattern throughout the game, i.e. him not commanding the area enough.
Well, he doesn't, does he? I mean, that's he's a great shot stopper. He's made some of the best saves I've seen Blackpool keepers make. But for that, the flip side of that is he's not very big, and he doesn't really command the area. It's a pattern, isn't it? With goals we concede is, obviously he was right in front of me, and it was just one of those where corner came in, they scored. It just seemed really quite easy. At the time, I had a feeling like somebody was getting held back, but they didn't make much fuss about it. And I think somebody might have slipped in the area, because one of ours got up afterwards and sort of held his hand up as if he, had slipped or something as he was going for it. But it was, I think I think what characterised Luton was they really put their bodies on the line in front of everything, and the goal we conceded wasn't very hard for them to score, and I think that was the difference of what was a really tight, poor game, I thought. And at one moment, we went to sleep a bit, and they never went to sleep.
Tom called Chris Maxwell Chris Flapswell. That's quite funny. In my notes, I've put, is it potentially... Oh, we've got Grimmy, obviously. We've got Moore on the bench as well, who's a big lad. He's about 6'4", 6'5". Looked very handy in that one game when he came in. Is he called Stuart Moore? He's played that few games.
Stuart Moore, yeah.
Stuart Moore. And to the live stream, is it time to give Stuart Moore a chance? Given the fact Grimmy isn't a great keeper, he isn't a man that will command his area and come crosses either. So is it time to give Stuart Moore a chance between the sticks?
I mean, I hear the argument, but personally, I think we've got our best keeper on the sidelines at the moment, and he didn't do much to deserve being dropped in the first place, other than we went through a couple of games where we did concede a few. I don't think many of them were actually his fault. I think if there was a criticism of him, it was that his distribution, he was creating problems with his always playing it short to Dougal, when Dougal was playing that in the defensive position, and he played us into a little bit of trouble in a couple of games, and I think that he paid the price. But interestingly, at Coventry, I spoke to his father-in-law, and he's absolutely gutted to be dropped, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in before, and he needs to be back in. He's our best keeper.
Mitch, you're shaking your head.
I just think with Moore, what is he now? 27, 28. The highest level he's ever played was Luton when they lost to us in the playoffs. He's played, I think, out of his 10 years as a pro, I think he's played 4 or 5 years at non-league. And he's a keeper who is with us because he's cheap and he's there for the training. You always have a third keeper to take all the shots, to sort of to face all the practice shots and stuff. He's a nice lad, I'm sure. The lads like him, but I just don't think he's, if he's miraculously a championship keeper, it defies everything to do with the rest of his career trajectory to date. And maybe I'm being unfair, but, look at the clubs he's played for before us. I think Grimmy, we've got, one of the best young English keepers outside the Premier League. So I think we need to get him back in the game. And I think we need to get him, his capacity for improvement is big, get him working on coming out, get him working on commanding, get Banksy with him, getting him barking orders and you work on that. But hey ho, Moore's done fine in what I've seen of him, but it's such a small sample size.
I think as well. Sorry, Mitch.
No, I've done.
Go on, Nick. Monologue over.
Well, I think the fact that Critchley, 2 managers now, Critchley and Appleton, have had plenty of opportunity to look at all 3 keepers, and neither of them have. We played Stuart Moore in one game through necessity, but other than that, neither of them have. Trusted him to start a first team game. So I think that probably tells you a lot as well. And I'd agree with what Tim said and Mitch that Grimmy, I think, is our best keeper and he's got the most potential for development. So that's probably the way to go, I think.
Just before we move on to the next talking point, Judd's contract. What's that all about? This to-in and throw-in, we'll sort it out later. Surely we need to be nailing him down on a longer deal. And as
he can speak to other clubs in January. He can speak to other clubs in January, can't he? So
get that contract in front of him while he's still groggy. Well, yeah, this needs sorting. Sort of PDQ. His new contract.
It should be top of the list of priorities, I would suggest. I can't understand it. I think he's our most reliable defender by a country mile this season, and to be going into the winter break without having sorted it out either is a reflection of the fact that I think maybe Jordan's thinking, I need to see that I'm actually going to keep my place in the team, because I'm not going to re-sign unless I'm going to be playing regularly at this, what is a crucial part of his career.
You can't blame him to be pissed off, can you?
Well, no,
It's
we've treated him like shit, to be honest. So, so I've got to say, it'll be a very, very great day. Well, great, you know what I mean. It'd be a great day from the squad's perspective. The day he puts pen to paper on a new 3-year deal.
If we lose him, that would sum up the recruitment at the club. Absolutely, Pete. Craig Nels just said I wouldn't sign if I was him, and Greg Douglas has also said first name on the team sheet at the moment. Sign him up.
I suppose the only thing you've got to say is it's not really Appleton that's treated him like crap, is it? It's the manager before. So I hope that works in our favour.
Yep. Okay, Mitch, you're not going to like this one.
No, I know what this is going to be.
Penned, Medine miss. Another poked missed chance like Coventry away has to become more clinical in these situations. And the question I'm posing is, why is he missing these relatively easy chances? Is it because he's been overworked and not supple enough, perhaps? Because he's stiff and not recovered?
Well, I mean, one of the club videos, didn't he? He actually said he was talking about, I think it was a Coventry game, he was talking about how he'd have scored one of them chances 5 years ago when he had 2 groins. But I don't think you can put that down to it. I just think it was a poor finish. And, clinical is not the word, I think, at any stage of Gary Medine's career that you'd apply to him. I could list many attributes for Gary Medine: intelligent, great vision, high level of skill, all round quality. Yeah, shithousery, all of those. But clinical is not the one you'd think. I think the most goals he's ever scored in a season is about 10 or 11.
Joking aside, though, you expect your centre forward to put those kind of chances in, don't you?
You do expect your centre forward to put those kind of chances away, but if Medine had his physicality and finished every chance, then he'd have been some player. There's a reason why he's kicked around League One and sort of the bottom end of the Championship most of his years, with the attributes he's got and the skill he's undoubtedly got and the vision he's got. He's not the world's most lethal finisher. And we could probably do a whole podcast on recruitment, to the fact that for all I get, people say you've got an unhealthy obsession with Gary Medine. When I'm in my realistic moments, I did say I think it was the preview for the season, I said, if we get into the season and we're still relying on Gary Medine, then where are we? And we're still in the same place where we can't play without Gary Medine.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. This is ultimately the fault of the recruitment, air quotes.
It's a great ball in it. I can't remember who put the ball in for him for that one, but it was on a postage stamp for him, wasn't it? From King Kenny.
Oh, and he looked heartbroken. If you watch the highlights, he just looks absolutely bereft when he's missed it. Poor Gary.
Maybe could get some counselling off Kevin Stewart. He's handing out all sort of all this advice at the moment.
He'll be saying, Gary, it's not about the goals, it's about the inner goals.
He also more or less said people who drink on their own are sad and they want to escape their current state or something. So I've just been drinking Coke on this.
You've got a brew.
Yeah. He's got me as well.
It's worked.
Go, Stuart dried out the podcast. There we go.
Shameless.
He's insulted us all into sobriety. Sobriety, is that the word?
Well, he had to go another bloke, because he said, I'll go out for my mates and have a few drinks. And he said, well, why do you have to drink alcohol? He was getting quite lecturing. It didn't come across well to me.
Well, maybe, Kev, if you weren't so fucking uptight all the time and enjoyed yourself and relaxed, you wouldn't be getting snapped every time you go into a tackle, would you? Which moves on nicely to our next point, Keshi the Glass Man.
Gutted for him.
I'm gutted. I think the problem is you don't know, do you, with these type of injuries, quite when you're ready to come back, and he must be absolutely distraught.
Joking aside, I say joke in air quotes. When he made that brilliant run to close their left back down, slide, get the ball, hook the ball, and come away with the ball, I joked to the guy next to me. I said, "Oh, he's probably injured himself again doing that." And I think that was the thing where he got injured, because he pulled up.
It was, yeah.
Was that the?
Yeah, he got up, he got straight up front, because again it was at my end. He got straight up front. He was holding the back. I don't know why I'm showing you, because it's an audio pod as well. But he was holding the back of his thigh. So and he sort of stretched it a few times, and then he tried to have a run on it, and it was obviously just tightening up as he went. And you could see as soon as he got up, he was thinking, "Oh shit!" And I mean, like Tim and Nick said, I'm heartbroken for him, because I think he's a different kettle of fish to some of our other players. I think he's been just horribly unlucky, and he's probably come back a little bit early. You know, you normally ease somebody in after that sort of injury with 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You know, you don't normally give him 45 minutes, and he's thrown himself. It was just so keshy. He's thrown himself into that tackle, and it was a tackle that he'd had to make because I think it was Callum Wright had an absolutely pathetic attempt at a tackle on the halfway line, a sort of half-hearted slide tackle that he didn't really even seem to go in for. And Keshy's, you know, he's got no right to get back and make that tackle. And I'm just gutted for him, because, I mean, quite apart from, I know we're going to go on to talk about contracts and stuff, quite apart from that, he's coming to the age where if he's not going to really do what he can do now, he's never going to do it as a footballer. He's going to end up sort of drifting back through League 1 and 2 eventually. And it's just tragic for him. He was superb last year as Keshy.
Just coming back to the recruitment team's failures, you could almost point the finger at them again for this injury, for what you've just said, Matt, that he's had to come on at this point in a game when he shouldn't be. And what does tend to happen when you're out for these extended periods of time, you do pull things when you come back, because your body just is not used to the intensity of those games. And like you say, he could have just had 10, 15 minutes to ease himself in. But the fact we've got no fucking squad,
but
to come in.
What is absurd is I think I'm right in saying that we've got 9 senior central midfielders on our books, and we don't seem to be able to put together 3 of them in any consistency. One of them's on loan, and the other one's Kev Stewart, but that's still, it's theoretically 6 players covering 3 positions, and yet we're still having to throw a player in him, and it's unbelievable.
I think Scrafton said it's a minimum grade 2 tear, so that's. I think you
sounds
probably
good. That
I still think it's anything between kind of 5 and 8 weeks. That so.
It's
given
better
that he's,
it didn't. Yeah, when I saw that from Pete, I thought, oh, that doesn't sound too bad. But obviously, we've got the winter. We've got a little bit of a break through the World. Yeah. Obviously, he's not going to play the next couple of weeks, is he? And then we've got the break.
Yeah.
So actually, when you add that in, Tim, like you say, that's actually it might only be sort of 4 or 5 games he misses then if he's taking the World Cup.
3 to 8 weeks, according to Google. Cheers, Greg.
He's not had the scan yet, though, has he? I don't think so. I think that's potentially best case scenario.
Yeah, they're always 6 weeks, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, is Fiorini not hamstring?
Yes, I think he was.
When was he injured? August, September?
Seems like the beginning of the season, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a comment in that Kelly's just made about the physios, training, doctors, etc. And I think that is an interesting question, because I was looking at Keshy's record, and he barely missed a game for Swindon for 2 years. And we do see, Fiorini has come from City, and I don't think he's particularly got a reputation for being injury prone. And it's an interesting question, and it does. I don't think you can point at Appleton, because I mean we had this in League 1, didn't we? I mean that League 1 season with Critchley was just it was just ridiculous. we seem to just be having. We seem to have had like sort of 3 years worth of an injury crisis.
We do, yeah. Someone's run over a large number of black cats at some point in their lives.
He's also started like, you know, is there something else? Is there a problem with the training pitches? Is there a problem with the treatment they're receiving? It's beyond bizarre, isn't it? How many we've had over such an extended period of time, and it stops being. You can have an unlucky spell, but you don't have 3 years of injury after injury after injury after injury.
Surely you get like a really extensive stretching program when you've been out for so long.
They all need I think they all need yoga, a bit more yoga, or I don't know, or you can almost say like dance or ballet, something that gets them more subtle than they are, because you know you've got Jordan Gabriel there, young lad who's like he's out till the new year, isn't he? With his twister injury or whatever it is, and we go all the way through the team. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Stuart Anderson, Bridcut all signed with a history of bad injuries. That's right, Pete. And
that is a point. Yeah, we have signed some who've been injured at the previous clubs they've been at, so I don't think it's all just down to, you know, something we're doing or not doing, as the case may be.
Kev will sort out the yoga, no doubt. Yes, he will, Kel. Kev Stewart, how do we solve this problem? Touch the webcam and you will be healed, Kashi.
There's only a problem if you accept the problem.
You got to own it.
Some see problems, John. Others just see opportunity. Let's go.
And let's go to the final talking point of the Seaside 7 for the Luton game, which I have penned. Nick, and I'll let you try and fill in the blanks. The Mountie and Melee 2. What does that say to? What does that say to you, Nick? Mountie and Melee 2.
It says, bloody hell, we should have scored. So it was Maxwell got it out, didn't he, quickly to the Mountie. He did well when he came on, I thought. You know, he was direct brilliant and made things happen.
Just before you move on, Nick, before he did his good stuff, he'd been on for 1 minute and insisted on, and I'm going to say this because somebody turned around and said, you've got to say that on the podcast. And there's somebody who sat in front of me, and he took that free kick off Connolly, and it was dog shit. So that's what I said at the time.
Forgot about that.
It was like a Russell Coughlin penalty at Bolton away.
I think I said to Eddie, Tim, I said, he'll just smash this over. You what?
Yeah. Jim said to me, he went, this is going in. I went, Jim, I said, pick which of the flags on the back of the North Stand it's going to hit. Because I said it's more likely to be there than in the back of the net.
But to be honest, Connolly shouldn't have let him have it because he's just come on the pitch. I don't think he'd even touched the ball at that point. And to him to be taken, you know, we were trying to get back in the game. It was probably one of the best positions you're going to get for a free kick. And he purloins it. And I'm thinking, what the hell are we like? You know, you've got Jerry could have had a shot. Yeah, you know, Connolly's got a good shot on him. Why are we letting him take it? But he didn't seem to give anybody any. I mean, Connolly was fuming. He was absolutely fuming with him.
Why did he let him do it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why did he? You know, Connolly's almost like one of our veterans, and he should have said, basically told him to sling his hook. Anyway, so that's what I said at the time, and I said, he said, you've got to repeat that, so I've done it. Go on, carry on, Nick.
Yeah, so the melee number 2, so it's corner, came over from Kenny, I think.
Was it Theo?
Big Gaz has headed it, and I thought it was handball. I had a really clear view of it where I was sat, and everyone around me went up. I think if that goes to VAR, you know, he's going to the side of the pitch and overturning his decision. But we don't have it, and he didn't give it. And then I think, was it CJ?
It didn't get appealed, Nick, because of the melee.
Yeah, that's the thing, because of what went on. Yeah, so CJ's at the post. Then Jerry's really intelligently flicked it over, and I think Connolly he just
it was a
hit
sitter.
the defender on the line,
sitter
didn't
of a
it?
header.
Yeah, but
he didn't get a decent connection on it, did he?
Well, I think it was okay. It was just straight at the player in front of him, unfortunately, and a yard to the right. It's in the bottom corner. Yeah, and it's just it's not happening then, is it? Like with the first one, to have one melee like that in a game and not score, he's unlucky. But two's just it's what happens when you're on a bit of a run that we're on with injuries and everything. If everything's going for you, one of those probably both of those go in, and you win the game 2-1. But it's fine.
I haven't seen it back actually. The one where we got where Gaz got pushed in his back, was that in the area? Was that shown to be outside when you watch it?
No, that was the one that was for the Theo free kick, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was like
I haven't seen that. I thought at the time from the end, I thought that looked like it was in the area.
Mm.
Yeah, it was to me. It was a foot inside, but I've not had a chance to watch all the highlights back yet. So I wasn't. Everybody was going mental in the north about that one.
I thought that was in. I think
Kelly's saying it's just outside, so maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it wasn't.
I think CJ got his legs hacked away as well in that melee.
Just before as they cleared it, yeah. You only got one angle.
Got a touch on the ball first.
Mm.
The defender. I was screaming for that at the time. I've seen it on the replay, and it's probably a decent call by the
handball. The whole south went up as well. It was that clear. It wasn't just in the north. We were all like, and the bloke who sits next to me was the most. He's an absolute pleasure to sit next to, and he's the most objective man ever at a football game. He's the kind of fella who goes, "Nah, it's a yellow." When I'm outraged, I'm fucking outraged. He's always a man to go to for a reasonable opinion. But he was out of his seat screaming. So if he was convinced, then it was a nailed on for me.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about your hand being in an unnatural position.
It goes up like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's I don't know. There's
no reason for your hand to be above your head, is there?
No. Sometimes when it's at the side,
position.
you think, you need your hands at your side for when you're moving, don't you? You can't keep them glued to your sides. But when it's up like that, it's an absolute stonewall.
So I guess as Nick said previously, it's just fine margins, and all right, we haven't played great in these last two games, but with a bit of luck in either game, we could have come away with a point or at least a win in both. So let's try and not get too disheartened. We've not been blown away both games. We've lost both games, but we were on a complete high after both the Preston and Cov games. We were serious promotion contenders, weren't we? And now we're serious relegation contenders. So,
well, that's this league, though, isn't it?
Football, yeah.
I looked before. I think it was before West Brom, and there was between Norwich in 5th and Wigan were 19th or somewhere 20th at the time. There was 9 points. So you win 2 games, you jump up 10 places, you lose a couple, you drop down into the bottom 6 or whatever. It's absolutely crazy. And like you say, I think you can't get too disheartened when you look at everything that's going on. We're not getting battered, and you can't help but think if we did have a few more options and people weren't carrying knocks and illnesses, etc., that we would probably be getting a bit more from the last couple of games.
I think you need a quite high total this year to stay in this division. I can see it being 54 or 55 points this year.
Yeah, it's a total cliche, isn't it, to say there's no easy games? But I think more so than any other season, this division, we've beaten Watford. You've had Rotherham the other night taking Burnley to I think it was 110 minutes or something before they got the winner. There's no pushovers, and that week in, week out, it's hard to predict, isn't it, what's going to happen, which I suppose makes it exciting, if nothing else, because you've not got anybody running away with it. So there's loads of points to play for, and I still think we'll be okay.
And we ourselves, it's hard to predict what we're going to do. And I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like I'm taking defeats worse this year, because actually it feels like as you said before, Nick, if we had more options, if we had more players with fit, it actually feels like in an odd way we've got a higher ceiling than last year. That when we've been good, we've been better. We've had these sort of little periods where for 2, 3, 4 games we've been really good to watch, and we've all really enjoyed it. And you think, oh, this is us now. We're turning up, and this is going to be fun. And then we just keep throwing in these really sort of tepid, dismal, or disjointed performances. Whereas last year, I mean, there were a few shockers last year, but it tended to be we'd win 1-0, we'd lose 1-0. The games were quite tight. We'd turn up and be solid and try very hard, and it was kind of quite similar. But I don't know. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, and it's. I was really down after the Luton game, and I think it was perhaps because, like, when you looked at it, we had like 11 shots on goal, but they all came in like 2 30-second incidents. Yeah, so
we destroyed him on the XG as well.
We did.
Sean saw it.
I was sat with our blue tick journalist at the BST meeting. Actually,
in Sean's head, we won that game.
Oh yeah, in his head and on his graph.
He'll have to be paying Elon Musk $8 a month for his to retain his blue tick. Should we start a crowdfunder for him?
We could all call ourselves Sean McGinley and buy our own blue tick.
Use some of the Patreon funds for it.
We could.
Right, player ratings. Let's whiz through these. I don't think there's going to be any 9 pluses, Tim. Who wants to start with Chris Maxwell? Tim. Go on.
Yeah, I do think I've watched back the goal, and it should have come and should have kept coming for me. And he checked it. He checked, and that cost us. You know, he didn't play badly, but 6+. Why am I wrong there?
I was going to go.
I was going to lower, would you?
No.
John's in a harsh mood tonight.
Because he didn't come for another cross as well, and that annoyed me. And we're conceding a ridiculous number of goals from corners.
Yeah, so I still think overall he did okay.
Yeah,
but it's
I
may be a bit generous, but I thought 6+. I'm sticking with my score anyway.
We need more from our goalkeepers. Right, Nick, Callum Conley.
Yeah, put a shift in like he always does. I will go 7.
Marv, Mitch, bit better today from.
Yeah, he did. Apart from that bizarre pass across his own defence in the first half, but then that seemed, if anything, that seemed to wake him up. He was all right. 7. You're not liking these ratings.
No, I'm not.
You wanted to bring him back.
I was expecting 5. I'd have given Marv a 6.
Well,
I certainly wouldn't have given
we've set a standard with with Maxwell now. This is how
it's Tim's fault.
My fault.
It's Tim's fault.
What do you want me to? Should we start again? I'll start with 5.
No.
Should we give them all -1? We weren't defensively that bad. We went, we didn't concede that many chances. We went to sleep and conceded a goal. I mean,
exactly. You can't do that, Rich. Can't do that.
What do you mean I can't do that? That's what I'm saying.
They can't do that. They can't go to sleep in moments like that because they keep doing it, and it's.
You don't just remove everybody and mark from everybody on the team.
Right, you do, John. You just do the rest of the scores and let's get through it.
Okay. Yeah, Thornley, I'd give 7. Husband, I'd give 6. Patino, can't really give him 1. Dougal, let's move on to Kenny Dougal. You can do him, Tim. Dougal.
So Kenneth, I thought he had an all right game, and I thought his set plays were quite a bit better on Saturday. I did mention the putting it on a postage stamp for Gary goals, but I think also some of his other set plays were pretty good. I still don't think he should be on them, but if he is on them, at least he did that well. And and he had an okay performance, but nothing spectacular by any stretch of the imagination. But I think he was one of our better players on the day, and I'd give him a 7.
I agree with that one. Grant Ward, Nick. Be interesting.
Yeah, I thought he did okay. And like when you factor in how long it is since I know he's played with the development squad, but I think he put a tweet out that's the kind of first properly competitive game in 442 days.
Christ.
Yeah. So when you factor all that in, I don't think he did too bad. I will go 6.
I was thinking 6+, Nick.
Yeah, I could add a plus on.
I'm butting in on these scores. CJ Hamilton. I quite liked CJ again, Mitch. Did you?
Yeah, he did okay. He sometimes looks as if he's not quite going to run with it when you want him to run with it. But I think at the same time, he's shown a lot more positional discipline than the CJ that we maybe saw previously, where he didn't really look like a player you could rely on. I thought he did okay. 7. Am I allowed that?
Yeah.
We'll submit them before the show next time, John, and then you can approve
for moderation.
Bob Harris has just said, see, very generous ratings from the panel tonight.
I don't actually think we played that bad, particularly in the second half.
I like I said before, it's fine margins, isn't it?
Second half was all right.
I mean, we haven't mentioned Luton at all, who are absolute. I mean, you've got to say they're horrible, but they are superb at what they do. You know, they are not a side with any sort of big name players really, and they are absolutely superb at what they do. They just do not give you an inch, do they? And they know exactly what they're doing. They're really, really drilled, and they come to just disrupt, to spoil, and then when they get the chance to play, they're direct, they're fast, they're all very, very strong. They all looked really, really sort of fit and athletic. I was really impressed with them, and I think actually we weren't dreadful.
It was the lad who scored the goal just when in the build up to Gary's miss. You know, he was spoiling, wasn't he? And he got a yellow card for it because Dougal was going for a quick free kick, and he basically came in front of him, nicked the ball off him, and walked away with it, and just basically took one for the team because they'd 1-0 up, and he just thought, I'm just not going to let them take anything quickly. I'm not going to let them get steal a march on us in any scenario. But he's using his head, isn't he? He's using his head at that point in the game. Just buy every minute you can, and don't.
Well, we love it. We love it when Gaz does it, don't we?
Yeah.
Pete Dixon, we deserved to win the game. Not so sure, Pete. Don't think we did enough. We 2 melees. They missed a few chances as well. Where were we?
I think a draw would have been fair.
Yeah, a draw would have been fair. Yeah. Gary Medine, Tim.
Where's
his banner?
I'm not going to be too harsh on the big man. 6.
I thought 6+. Jerry 8, Tim. Nick, sorry.
7.
Banner. He's put himself into the ground. Rate the manager.
I don't think he could. I don't think he had a lot of choice, did he?
Did he?
He's basically putting a sticking plaster over the fact that we've got a team of sick notes.
I suppose one of the things you have to say though is that some of the players who were available, like Thompson and Wright, and some of the sort of the loan signings that were available. I mean, I know Williams was sick actually at half time, so possibly wasn't as available as we thought. But
Thompson did all right when he came on, Mitch.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, he did. He did okay. But what I mean is that some of the fact that he's not entirely separate from the recruitment, and that's not entire. If we're going to say, well, the recruitment has something to answer for. The recruitment isn't just this mysterious team in a backroom cupboard at Bloomfield Road who just get players. That he's had something to do with that recruitment as well. And I mean, he must. He's gone and got Bridcut, who everybody in the world knows is injured, and so Yeah, he had hard luck, and yeah, it was a difficult thing, and yeah, he probably couldn't have picked any other team, but partly that's got something to do with his signings. I'm not saying it's all to do with his signings, but
it's a fair shout. Yeah, it's a fair shout.
Was it in the first half that we had 10, apart from Patino, that we had 10 that players from the Division 1? It was basically the Division 1 team, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
And then we brought Keshi on at half-time for Patino.
Yeah. So you're thinking all this recruitment and not one of the players recruited is on the pitch.
Well, at one point, it was the League One team plus Callum Connolly, who at the time was at Fleetwood in League One. So it's pretty much the League One team and the bloke up the road.
Right. Squad decimated, people ill, injured, etc. How are we going to do against Middlesbrough? It doesn't bode well, does it?
Well, I think we should all pile on. We should all pile on Middlesbrough on the bets with it for a bit of reverse psychology, because it's all that it looks like a Middlesbrough win all the way, doesn't it? To me,
the pressure's on them.
They're in reasonable form. Only lost 1 in 5. Michael Carrick, new manager bounce and all that.
They'll have a good following as well, won't they? I know it's not going to be as big as it would have been had the game originally gone ahead when planned. But I think there's over 2,500 tickets sold with pay on the gate available. So
they should make an event of it at least.
So frustrating, this game should have been played.
It's the Queen's funeral.
It's the game that got cancelled then, and we had basically pretty much a full squad at that point.
I mean, I don't normally, you say I'll take a point away from home, and I'm kind of thinking I probably would do at home tomorrow night. When you look at what team we're going to put out, it pretty much probably picks itself, doesn't it? It's going to be tough, but you never know. It is a funny old game. So,
do you think he's going to play Williams, or do you think he'll put? I think he'll put Husband centre back and play Tomo.
I think so. I mean, if you look at Patino, if you look at how rough Patino looked, and he did. I mean, it wasn't his fault, but he was half a yard behind what was happening. Some of the other players who've been sick, like Williams was apparently sick. Well, some of the other players who've been sick, if they've been anywhere near as ill as Patino was, that you do not want Williams, he's not the most, as Ron Atkinson used to say, he's not the biggest member of the wide awake club in the world, is he? So
let's pick the team then, shall we? Shall we pick our team? Go on.
Grimshaw.
Yeah.
I'm down with that. Nick? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Conley's suspended as well, isn't he?
Oh, Jesus,
he is.
We've got no Conley, no Judd.
It's Grant Ward.
Grant Ward can play right back, can't he? Well, I'm saying can't he? I think he did say he could fill in if needed. Probably never thinking he would have to. And
Jerry right back.
Oh, fuck.
Are we going to get another telling off from Mr. Sadler telling us that Grant Ward can play right back, so there's no problem? Please not Garber right back, Kelly. No. Grant Ward was absolutely sensational against Sunderland in the League One towards the end of the League One promotion season, and he stuck to McGeady like glue. He was brilliant, and McGeady didn't get a kick. So he was playing right midfield there in a defensive Critch team, but I would rather see Grant Ward doing that than I would Luke Garber to right back. Because Luke Garber doesn't really do left back anymore, sadly.
I'm not having Grant Ward at right back. No,
I think
that's who's going to play there.
Williams. Stick Williams there.
No.
You're going to get outvoted here, John.
Unless
you go three at the back and play 2 wing backs.
And we're absolutely horrific when we play 3 at the back. We have been. We've been awful when we've played it.
Yeah, but Mitch, we've been absolute dog shit 4-3-3 last
time.
Yeah,
but we were more dog
Grant
shit.
Ward's right back. Get him on.
You're outvoted, John.
Rotherham away was more dog shit than the last 2 games.
Do you know what? He's not even in the list. not even in the list. Right, I'll have to do it in Dev Tools. Right, let's do centre halves.
Hobby and Marv.
Picks itself, I think.
Who's going left back?
Tomo.
Thompson.
Captain Chaos is the fellow on the other side from Nicholson.
Ward. Oh my god. Okay, midfield. I'll put Ward in a minute. Midfield.
Dougal will be in there, won't he?
Dougal, Patino.
Yeah, Patino should be ready. Dougal.
Must be right, won't it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but the thing with Wright is, I think he was awful against West Brom. He really, really was. But I don't think him and Carey can play in the same team because they're like literally the same player. And I think with Dougal and Patino, you might just be able to let him go a little bit more.
Have he just overruled us at right back?
No.
Oh no, he's there now. He's there now. I saw he put Williams in there. I thought, all right.
Who are we saying then?
I don't see who else can play but Wright. I mean, I've seen teams online with Corbin who in central midfield, but I find that a strange.
Oh, Sonny Carey.
But he's out, isn't he?
I thought he was just sick.
He was just sick.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Well, if Carey's fit, then Carey every day.
Should we assume he is then?
Yes.
Right, up front.
Well, two pick themselves,
Jezza,
don't
obviously. Jezza.
Yeah.
Is Lavery back?
I don't know.
Was he? Yeah, he's done his suspension.
Yeah, he was ill, wasn't he?
He was ill, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Surely he's all right now. Josh Mellings just said Carey is ill. Well, what the fuck is it that they're so ill with?
Incredible. No, it's a couple of days, isn't it?
Well, Big Gaz is going to have to play again. I wouldn't play him. I'd give him a rest, but he's got to play, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has to play. He'll play through to Wigan now, and then he'll just spend the whole World Cup on the sunbed recovering.
So we have to take Carey out and put Wright in there, won't we?
4 of them are returning from sickness, apparently.
Yeah, I was just looking.
Yeah, but I don't think they're fit for tomorrow night, though.
Are we playing Theo? Or are we playing CJ?
What about Lavery?
Yeah, I'd like to see Lavery. I mean, I think this game where we're going to be, we're going to be struggling to knit together silky football. I think you maybe want Yates and Lavery just tearing at their fullbacks.
If Lavery's fit, Lavery.
I'm just reading Appleton's quote. So he said, Stuart Moore, Sonny Carey, and Shane Lavery had missed training on Thursday and Friday. They're clearly never going to be part of the squad for Saturday. And then Reece Williams and Paveda were ill as well over the weekend. No new cases reported. They've said they feel better, but I will see them again very soon when we train. I just hope they've had a couple of decent nights' sleep. So
Lavery's a young lad as well, and he's fit as a butcher's dog.
Yeah.
So,
let's assume Sonny and Shane are fit.
Yeah.
Stick them in.
They can't do, it might be they do 45 minutes.
Yeah. And then what we can do is we can play Big Gaz for 45, 50 minutes, and then we can swap it round and get maybe Lavery or Yates in the middle, and have CJ or Theo running with pace, and that'll be fine. And we'll win 3-2.
All right. And on that note, I'll just press the outro music. Job done doesn't look too bad, that, apart from Grant.
No, it doesn't actually, does it? 1-0 to Poole.
Until we get an injury, and then
We've got a fun game. How many of these lots going to pull a hamstring? I'll go for 2. Right. Viewers, listeners, etc. I think you've seen more than enough of us for one evening, so we'll call it a day there. Please do like, subscribe to the video if you're watching on
I know
YouTube.
Gary Ford has signed up, so get signed up for the BST thing, please. Sorry, John.
1953.live or something like that. Right. Yeah. Thanks for your company this evening, gents. All I'm meant to be said is thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. And up the injuries. Up the pool.
Up the pool.
Oh.